All right, what's up, guys? I'm gonna give everybody a couple of minutes to join, and then we're gonna get started here. We'll let everybody know that we're getting started. Okay. Give everybody about 2 minutes. Post the link late. Okay. We can get started here. All right, guys. Thank you for coming. We're gonna go over a weekly watch list class. If you guys have tickers, just message me in the chat and I will go over those. And yeah, answer any questions that you got. But first we'll go over kind of the markets, then we'll kind of get into the other stuff and go more in depth here. So first, let's look at SPY here. Okay. So first things first here. So basically what we're looking at here, I mean, is just nothing, like a whole bunch of nothing. That's how I feel when I look at this chart. Like we've got some moves down here, we've got some moves up here. This is just chop. Oh, for lack of a better term, this is just chop, right? Like there's nothing really that looks good about this chart. So for SPY, look at this. We kind of failed below the 21 EMA, right? And then we kind of got bought back up, and then next thing you know, we're rejecting, right? So tomorrow could be interesting, but really what we're looking for is we got CPI on Wednesday. So when it comes down to it, we're not going to get that great of price action in the next couple of days. So what is the most ideal situation? Probably selling premium. Just betting on the market's probably going to do a majority of nothing, right? Nothing special. That's kind of what you're going to probably run into the next couple of days. Lackluster. So obviously we'll be open to anything that comes our way. We'll trade it if it's tradable, but like at this point, nothing looks great. The only thing that I'm looking for here is we've got a squeeze here. It's fine. I mean, we've got a squeeze here on the 30-minute. We've got a squeeze here on the hourly. The momentum's turning to the upside, so it doesn't make me feel like it's a place to go short. Also, another thing that we're looking at here, let me get my little drawing tool here. We got a little bit of an ugly inverse head and shoulders trying to form here. So that's something to pay attention to. Okay, now let's get into the good stuff. So with that, so that's kind of my view on SPY. Like there's not much to do here, right? It's like if you look at the daily time frame, it kind of really tells a story. Now, if we go to the higher time frames, like the 2-day here, we go to the 3-day here. You can see we've got stacked EMAs. We're trending upside. There's nothing really that's like making me believe that we might have a big flush down just yet. But obviously anything can happen. CPI, that could definitely cause us to head lower, right? Okay. So next, we look at QQQ, pretty much same story. The EMAs look about the same. They look a little better than SPY. We're above the 21 EMA, which is good for tech. So if I was looking to go long this week, I'd be more along the lines of looking for tech stocks to go long, right? I'd be more inclined to take QQQ to the upside than I would SPY. We can look at the lower time frames. Same story here. This is a little better looking inverse head and shoulders. Like if we draw it out here, you can see we got a little inverse head and shoulders here that could possibly get us to go upside. That's what we're seeing in both indexes, lower time frames. Like here, we have a squeeze forming here. We have 30-minute squeeze forming here. Nothing really to get excited about. We can trade these here, but we kind of got to wait for the setup to develop. I'm leaning more side. We might pop upside, but I'm not thinking the pop upside is going to be anything very significant until we get CPI data that comes out. We got PPI on Thursday, as well as initial jobless claims on Thursday as well too. Okay, so now kind of my thesis in terms of like the rest of the market. So if we go look at these heavy hitters here, like Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, the stuff that really makes up the market, right? We can take a look at those. We'll look at what's going on here. So my thought process is, okay, so Microsoft looks good, right? Like it's starting to trend upside. We're looking like the squeeze wants to fire off long. We got a gap to fill up here. Oh, it's got my drawing tool all messed up. Hold on. 1 second. Okay. So we've got a gap to fill right up here, which we could definitely go fill, right? So there's that. Now we look at Google. Google looks strong, steady uptrend. We had a gap up on earnings, traded sideways. When you see these patterns, these are pretty consistent patterns because when we gap up on earnings and we just trade sideways until the EMAs come match up with us, like rather than the stock price coming down to reach the EMAs, it waits for the EMAs to reach it. That's usually a good sign. That means the stock is strong, that we've got some strength behind this name, especially when we have a good earnings gap up, right? So now what we're looking for is a continuation of this. So here we got the squeeze firing off, clean momentum. We look like we may push back up to take out this 52-week high. That's what this orange line is. Okay. Now, if we go look at this from a longer base perspective, you can see, okay, here's, that is like basically our all-time highs. I might be off a few cents, but that's our all-time highs. Now, notice this versus Microsoft went and tested or created a new all-time high as of recently. Apple went and created an all-time high this year as well. NVIDIA did the same thing. Now, if you look at this from like Google's perspective, say, okay, this one's still got a little more room to go. Like it has not reached its all-time high. It's not even really near it, right? We still have another 10, 12% more to go, or about 10% to go until we reach a new all-time high. So this one has a little more juice behind it, a little more strength behind it. And plus, take a look at the difference in the charts. Check out this here, and then check out SPY. Much stronger, right? Check out QQQ versus Google. The strength is a big difference, right? So that's kind of what I'm paying attention to here. We're looking for these names that are outperforming. Now, back to what I was speaking about. Okay, so Microsoft looks strong. Looks like it's not strong, but it looks like it's starting to turn back upside, right? So this one's kind of starting to head back to the upside. Looks like EMAs are starting to cross back bullish, and we might start for a continuation to the upside. Okay, cool. Google, very strong, didn't have much of a correction at all, and is still continuing to trend upside. Amazon, same thing, didn't have much of a correction. I mean, we pulled back. EMA's never got funky, right? But we were continuing this pretty strong uptrend, right? We've got a squeeze, looks like it wants to fire off long. If you look at the 2-day, we've got a squeeze that looks great, looks like it wants to fire off upside. And then same thing here. We've got a squeeze and it's looking strong, right? all these things that line up with it. And we have the 52-week high just up there. So we're looking good as of now. Okay. Now, NVIDIA, this one has been a heavy hitter all year, past couple of years. It's been very strong. I would not, even though a short position could work on this one, I'm not interested in shorting this because why would you not just buy bounces here, 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 and here and ride it up to the sunset like it's been going versus trying to short it all the way up here? Just doesn't seem wise to me. If you do this over 100 times, I don't think the results would be very good for you, right? So my idea is we got the stacked EMAs. We look strong. Looks weaker than other names. We had a squeeze fire off. We popped up to 500, and then now we're kind of selling off. We don't have a squeeze, so there's nothing really to do here. If we go look at the higher time frames, we've got a 2-day squeeze. We've got a 3-day squeeze. So maybe we're just taking a breather here and gearing up for the next leg up. So that's NVIDIA. Meta looks like it's about in the same boat as Microsoft, right? So we've got the EMAs stacked. You can see the green label up here. We've got it stacked. We've got momentum shifting to the upside, so on and so forth. There's nothing really that's like, okay, I don't want to take like this. This one obviously doesn't look as good as like Google per se, but it still looks like it might want to head higher, right? So there's nothing really bad about this one in terms of, yeah, or Microsoft or Google looks better for sure, but this name looks like it may want to go higher. So keeping all that in mind, I'm not necessarily saying take all these trades, right? I'm trying to get you in the idea of the mindset. Right now, we're looking at all the top names within the S&P 500 SPY and the top names in QQQ. And we're looking at them and saying, okay, which way are these probably wanting to head next based on what the price looks like, what the chart looks like? Okay, that's what, so stick with me of that idea. Where do each of these look like they want to head to go, right? Okay, so we've gone through all these names. All of them look, for the most part, bullish, like they want to head higher. I know we haven't hit Apple yet. I'm getting there. There's a reason for that. Tesla, not the best looking chart out there either, right? But we have no squeeze. We don't have much momentum. We've got a 3-day squeeze here. That's about it, right? Okay. So now we've got a 2-hour squeeze. Let's see what that looks like. Nothing special, right? Might be a little bit of a bull flag here. Pennant, whatever you want to call it. Got a little bit of that action going. So that's interesting. Okay. So if you looked at this chart and said, okay, EMAs are about to be stacked. The 8 crossed the 34. So we're kind of starting to trend upside. Now we go look at this 2-hour. Okay, we've got a little bit of a flag forming here. Path of least resistance, probably upside, right? Not saying we want to take this trade, but the path of least resistance is probably upside. Okay. Now, last one, we'll go into Netflix. Okay, Netflix had a squeeze fire off. Looks good. Looks strong. We've got a 2-day squeeze. We've got a 3-day squeeze. We look good. Nothing really to say about this one, right? Okay, so now with all this perspective and all these things in mind, we have Netflix that looks good. We have Tesla that looks okay, looks more than likely bullish. We have Meta that looks bullish. We have NVIDIA that looks okay, most likely bullish. Based on the price action, we have a steady trend up, so I'm not going to fight it. Amazon looks great. Google looks great. And then Microsoft looks pretty good as well. Okay, so now what? Now what do we do with all this information? Now let's take a look at Apple. Okay, so Apple, this looks like crap, right? It looks worse than the market. Like the chart is terrible. EMAs are stacked negative. We had a gap down on that news. So on and so forth. Nothing looks good about this chart, right? Like we had a long, steady uptrend for quite some time. Then we had a sell-off after earnings. We had another, we had a little bit of a rally, and then we sold off after news as well. Let's look at the weekly time frame. Weekly time frame looks like it's just consolidating. We're starting to form a squeeze. We might just sit here for a minute and do absolutely nothing. right? Okay. So with this in mind, we got to think, okay, what Apple's the number one stock in the market. What's it probably going to do? Okay. Based on the chart, it might head a little bit lower, or we can just see a whole bunch of this action of nothing, just chopping back and forth. Now that kind of coincides with how the charts look on the weekly time frame. We might just chop around in this area and do nothing. Probably a likely scenario, right? Okay, cool. So now we've got this idea. So we have all these other charts: Netflix, Tesla, Meta, Nvidia, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, all these charts looking bullish for the most part, right? They all look, for the most part, bullish. Apple's the only one that looks rough. And then we look at SPY. Looks okay, still pretty rough, right? QQQ, same thing, still looks pretty rough. So my thought processes behind all of this is like, Apple is probably going to do not much. It's either going to head a little bit lower or just stay flat. That's my idea, right? I'm thinking Apple is not going to do anything of great value. It's probably going to stay flat or head a little bit lower. With that in mind, now I can think, okay, so what about the rest of these stocks? All the rest of these stocks look like they want to head upside. Now, keep in mind, Apple makes up roughly 7% of the S&P 500 and QQQ. So we have that as a fact as well. So now what I'm thinking is it makes up so make of the broader market, the S&P 500. It makes up such a significant portion. But these as well make up a good portion of the market as well. So all of these are top stocks in the S&P 500 and NASDAQ. So my thought process behind this, all this is that, okay, Apple's probably going to stay flat, maybe move a little bit lower, and it's the heaviest stock in the market. Now, but Microsoft is also a significant part. Google's a significant part. Amazon is, Nvidia, Meta, Tesla. All of these are pretty significant in the market. Now, what I'm thinking is probably going to happen is that these stocks will probably move higher because they all look good, right? Now, I think that Apple may stay flat, maybe pick up a little bit of speed to the upside because of these other tickers in sympathy, like in sympathy of Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Nvidia, Tesla, Meta. I think it might move in a little bit of sympathy, but for the most part, will probably move flat. Now, with having this in mind, okay, I think that the market is probably going to stay flat because Apple's not going to do as well, but these other tickers are going to do pretty well. So it won't be as explosive move to the upside. I'm thinking it's going to be more of a either like kind of grind higher, or it's going to be some choppy price action here and not move as significant. So that's kind of what I'm thinking is like, okay, all these charts look really good. They all look good. But the problem is Apple is holding us back, and this makes up the biggest portion of the market. So what I'm thinking is, okay, we're probably going to run into a situation where Apple stays kind of flat, stays kind of neutral, maybe moves a little bit lower, but the rest of these stocks look good and they want to move higher. So I'm thinking these other stocks are going to move higher. Apple won't do as well, and it's going to make SPY and QQQ not move up as fluently, but it should still move up somewhat, have a pretty good upside momentum, somewhat decent. But if Apple really falls apart, then this is going to mostly stay flat while these tickers rally, these stocks rally. So we might have a little move upside here, back up maybe to this high, or just stay within this 1 ATR zone. And then while these other tickers kind of find a bid and get buyers to step in and have them move up further, right? So that's kind of my idea behind this. I'm more than thinking that it's probably going to stay flat and not continue to move upside, but more so stay flat for the most part is kind of what I'm thinking here. So yeah, that's kind of my thought process behind all of this. So do you guys have questions, kind of comments, things that you're thinking, or stocks you want to look at? Put them in the chat. I'll kind of go a little bit more over what's going on in terms of kind of what I'm looking at, what stocks I'm looking at. I'm gonna go over those, but that's kind of my thesis behind what's going on here. I'm thinking SPY mostly going to stay flat, maybe move a little bit higher, but really there's kind of three scenarios. So let's put those out here. So first, make this black so you guys can see it. First, Apple flat. Other key stocks rally. Two, Apple flat. Two, Apple man, why is this not typing? Lower stocks. Okay. And then three, Apple moves higher. So obviously the third scenario, so Apple can pick up a bid. People can start buying up Apple, right? Like they're finding this as an opportunity to buy the dip, right? So that's obviously a possibility, right? So Apple moves higher. Key stocks move higher. And then SPY rallies significantly. So these are kind of the scenarios that I'm looking for that could potentially happen, right? So Apple stays flat, key stocks. I mean, I just went through them all. So these are kind of the scenarios that I'm looking for that could possibly happen. So really, it comes down to what are the rest of these stocks going to do. Now, one thing to keep in mind is we have CPI coming out on Wednesday. I'm not necessarily saying that this is going to happen tomorrow. I'm saying that it's obviously none of these things could happen, right? But it's the market. But what we can run into is the potential that we can move stay flat into CPI on Wednesday. We do nothing. And then we kind of really propel our move. So what could really screw this whole thing up? CPI comes in terrible and we move lower. That's a high possibility. I mean, that could definitely happen. Now, CPI has came out good for the most part in the past few years or past few months. So that's a little less likely to happen as we've seen progressing CPI reports that have been good. But then we have jobless claims the next day and PPI, so on and so forth. So this is what I'm kind of looking for in the next few days, like or next few weeks rather, because all of these setups are based on the daily time frame. So that's what I'm kind of paying attention to, right? So yeah, that's what I'm looking for. So when it comes down to what's the market going to do, I'm more leaning towards slightly bullish, but more than likely the market's going to be flat. And I think stocks or indexes or the Microsoft, Google, Amazon, they will kind of make their own move. Apple will kind of stay flat. Now the market will really rally hard if Apple finds a bid and starts to move higher. So those are the things that I'm looking for. Okay. So now I think I've kind of beat the beat that whole scenario into your head. It's kind of a hard one to explain, but these are kind of the ideas that I'm looking for the market, right? Now what I'm looking for is, okay, let's look at these stocks. So the main ones that I'm kind of paying attention to are these key ones up here, right? So number one, I like the best one I like out of all these, Amazon. Looks strong, had earnings, flagged into it, couldn't fill the gap, looks good, and looks like it wants to fire upside. Squeeze wants to fire upside. It could trigger this 2-day, which could trigger this 3-day. And ultimately, we could see a pretty nice move back into the all-time highs. So that's number one. That's the first thing I'm looking for. I really like this setup. This is probably my favorite setup going into the week, as well as Google. Google just looks strong. This is a name that you could play just based off of strength. If SPY looks good, this one will, or QQQ looks good, this one will probably move up as well. Cool. Okay, so now what I'm looking for is after that, we go through, we look at these other names, right? So Google, Amazon are kind of my top watches. Or Apple, I don't really have anything to do with this one. Nothing looks good to me on this setup. Nothing looks like I want to do anything with it. So I'm just going to leave it alone here. So until a better setup comes my way. NVIDIA, one thing I'm interested in is the 2-day squeeze on this one. So I like this, how it's been strong. It's held up strength. Someone had mentioned to me in the chat, I think it was Jag, he mentioned that a semiconductor is coming out with an IPO on Wednesday. I think it was the ticker's ARM. I don't really know how that's going to affect semiconductors, if it does at all, but it's worth something to keep an eye on. Another one that I'm paying attention to, I like Meta. I like this one. It's a similar setup to Microsoft, so I'm kind of looking at these ones in sync. So I do like these two setups as well. I like both. They pretty much look almost the same. I'd probably lean towards Microsoft before I picked Meta, but both of the setups look clean. Nothing is wrong with them, and I like both of those to the upside. But obviously, Amazon, if I was going to put my money somewhere and I had to pick between the four, I'd put Amazon and Google my money towards. Netflix, it looks like this one could just continue trending higher. Nothing that I really want to do with that one. One that I'm also watching is Cat. I like the way this one looks. We've got a squeeze, momentum heading to the upside, and we're right near all-time highs. So I think this one could probably continue upside, and I wouldn't be surprised if we went and tested 300 in the next month or so. So I'm looking for, unless the market falls apart, I'm looking for Cat to go test 300. CRM, kind of off to the races. A longer term perspective, I'm looking at GS, which is Goldman Sachs. I think this one might be a good short. If you look at this, we've kind of got like a little bear flag type deal going on. Or if you want to call maybe symmetrical triangle of sorts. But basically, I think this one could probably head lower. We just need to kind of break this demand right here that we are kind of sitting at. And then I think this one could head lower. So I wouldn't oppose taking some longer term puts and looking for this to head back down to the 52-week low here. Last one that I'm watching into this week is Home Depot. I think the setup looks really clean. We've got a little bit of a bull flag going on. We've got 52-week high right up here. And this just looks clean. It's consolidating, losing momentum to the downside, stacked EMAs, and it looks like it wants to head higher. So I like this setup for upside move. Really nothing that I'm missing from this one. I would like the momentum to shift. Looks like we had a good earnings report, a beat on both sides. So I'm looking at this one to go long as well. And then really that's it. That's all the tickers. That's everything I'm watching. So the main ones that I'm paying attention to, just to name them off, are Home Depot, Goldman Sachs for a longer term short, CAT for upside to potentially 300. This one's long gone, so I'm not looking to take this one because it's already gone too far. Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and Apple. Those are the ones I'm looking for upside. So yeah, those are kind of the stocks that I'm looking for this to move upside. And yeah, that's all. Those are the stocks that I'm really paying attention to. I'm keeping a heavy eye on mega tech or mega cap tech. And besides that, I'm just going to be watching these ones into the next few weeks or so. But slightly bullish, more neutral, that we're going to be flat for the next few weeks. So or few days at least. So I'm looking to probably sell premium the next week or so. But I do like these names upside. I am long Amazon already. So I'm going to keep a close eye on this one. And yeah. So do you guys have any stocks that you want me to look at or any questions, anything like that? Anything you're wondering about? Or are we good to go? How do you like AI? Um, okay, so this one has a squeeze. Had a gap down on earnings, beat earnings. Um, I think this one kind of just lost its momentum. Like it's kind of just it might turn into one of those stocks like what's a good example? Maybe a firm where it was hot to trot for a minute. Like here, it was hot to trot, had a really good move up, and now it might move back down. Um, so that's kind of my idea behind that one. Not too much to say about that. Like I think kind of the hype is gone in this name. Definitely could turn around, but I'm leaning more bearish than anything for sure. Uh, Let me know if that doesn't answer your question. But yeah, I would go short that name before anything. ITNC, I think this one is in the process of a longer term breakout. As you can see, the EMAs are starting to trend upside. We just hit a new 52-week high. We broke out of this consolidation that we've been in for a long time. I think this name is going to continue to run. You see, we had a 3-day or a daily squeeze form and fire off. It's looking like it wants to fire off the 2-day. We got the 3-day that's firing off, getting ready to fire off as well, which will probably trigger the weekly. And we could see a nice run in this name up to $45, in my opinion. I think we reach that pretty easy. So I'm definitely bullish on that name. I just wouldn't buy it up there. I'd wait for a pullback to go long. This one, I've Hawaiian Electric Industries. I don't really have an opinion on this. There's nothing really to say about it. It's just the chart's ugly. Like it's just gapping around, doing whatever. Like yeah, I just nothing really to say about this one. Um, I'm I don't know what it's going to do. I would lean bearish before anything. Um, but yeah, I just think it looks bearish. Like it's probably going to continue to head lower. We're not far from the 52-week low. It's dropped down over 50%. So there's really nothing to do with this one. It broke out of longer term consolidation here. So yeah, I just think it's probably going to head lower, to be honest with you. But I wouldn't trade it because I have no idea what it is. And I also don't know what the gap is for. Oh, only following due to the drastic fire they had in Hawaii. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it might be a news play, but I don't really play based off of news. It had a huge gap down, so can't really do anything about this one. Marvel. Uh, this looks like a pretty good short to me, honestly. I like this one short. I think you could take this short and go fill the gap. Everything lines up for a good short position. Honestly, you could have taken it Friday. But yeah, I like this name short. EMA stack negative, got a squeeze getting ready to fire off short. Everything lines up for this one to go short. We got any other ones? Or are you guys good? Let's see. Yeah, this one does look good for a short trade. I would definitely lean short on this position. Yep. Should I sell Upstart? I mean, that's up to you. I don't really know. I don't invest. I just trade. Um, I mean, it looks like it's probably going to go break these lows and continue lower. Uh, yeah, I mean, it looks like short-term perspective, I think it's a good short. Longer term, I'm not an investor, so I can't really speak on that. But like the daily time frame, it looks like it's going to break this low of 29 and probably continue lower. Any other questions? Are we good? Okay. All right. Well, cool. Thank you guys for coming. If you guys want like more in-depth analysis, we have a pretty cool community in the Signals chat. We have a 7-day free trial. We have yet to have a month where it doesn't pay for itself plus more. But yeah, if you guys are interested in joining that, 7-day free trial, $19.97. Yeah, it's all good. Join us over there. The link's in the chat. We'd love to see you guys over there. We had some pretty great wins last week. Apple 450% from Dark Knight. I had 400% from Roku calls. And yeah, definitely can help you out if you're looking to really step up your trading game. Thank you guys for coming, and I will see you for the markets tomorrow.